Well, good morning to everyone, and welcome to the Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce and our monthly Public Affairs webinar. My name is Mark Loftus. I'm a member of the Chamber's Board of Directors, and I'm also serving for a little while as the interim president of the Chamber. We thank you for being part of this morning's event, and we're very grateful that you could join us today. We'll be hearing from our two newly elected county commissioners today, Commissioner Lori Halverson and Commissioner Mary Heyman Rowland, who come to the work as county commissioners from diverse backgrounds and elected public service. But I think that blend of their backgrounds will serve the people and businesses and communities in Dakota County extremely well. So we're happy they could join us today. During this whole pandemic experience, the Chamber and our board have been working very hard to ensure that our members are getting the value and benefits that they expect from their membership. And we're very grateful to you for your support over this last year during what has been the most challenging times in most people's memory. So now I'm very pleased to introduce the chair of our Public Affairs Committee and my fellow member of the Dakota County Regional Chamber Board, Amanda Dewar, who is with Charter Communications. Amanda, the floor and the screen are yours.
All right, thanks, Mark, and thanks so much for stepping in as the interim president while Maureen is out on medical leave. You're being a tremendous leader during this time, and we all appreciate it. I'd first like to acknowledge our sponsors for today's program, Charter Communications, Flint Hills Resources, and Velocity Public Affairs. These companies' commitment and involvement are evidence of the value that they place on being engaged with the Dakota County Regional Chamber. Now I'll tell you a little bit about each one. Velocity Public Affairs is our program sponsor today. Velocity Public Affairs is a full-service public affairs company that combines experienced leadership with market-leading proprietary technology to help clients strategically address and manage public affairs challenges and opportunities. Flint Hills Resources is a series sponsor. Flint Hills Resources is an industry leader in refining chemicals, biofuels, and ingredients. Flint Hills Resources directly and indirectly supports more than 4,000 Minnesota jobs and has invested nearly $1.7 billion on upgrades and improvements to its Minnesota facilities since 2010. With almost 1,000 full-time employees, the Flint Hills Pine Bend Refinery is one of the largest employers in Dakota County. And the final series sponsor is my employer, Charter Communications. And we just wrapped up Minnesota's Women's History Month in March. So I'd like to say I'm proud to be here today to speak with these two strong women leaders, and my company is proud to sponsor this event and the upcoming Women's Leadership Forum. At Charter, we aim to empower women at all levels across the company to reach their potential both professionally and personally. One way we do this is through our Spectrum Women's Business Resource Group. The mission of Spectrum Women is to sustain a culture where women can thrive at Charter. We succeed at that purpose when we provide knowledge and opportunities for growth and mentorship that enable women to create and achieve their own goals for professional success. So I'd like to extend my appreciation to all the great women business leaders represented by the DCR Chamber, and also welcome our county commissioners, Lori Halverson and Mary Heyman Rowland. The commissioners will begin with a webinar, and then we'll head into Q&A. And audience members can submit questions through the chat or the Q&A functions. So now I'll turn it over to our commissioners. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Amanda and Mark and Maureen and Heather, who have helped put this together. We're very excited to be with you this morning. And certainly you all know me from my work at the Capitol, but I couldn't be more pleased to be joined by my colleague, Commissioner Heyman Rowland. So if you would advance the slides, we can get started. And we will keep our presentation short because we want to really hear a lot from you guys. So you can, next slide, please. Okay. Well, I will let
All right. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you as well, Maureen, and Mark and Amanda. Amanda, I loved what you had to say. And I'd like Heather to advance or go back one slide. And Commissioner Halverson is going to tell about her experience and background. Thank you. It's yours, Lori.
Oh, thanks, Mary. So I had served at the Minnesota House of Representatives for 8 years, and prior to that, a lot of you knew me as a community volunteer here in Eagan. Very pleased to be representing District 3. This is in Dakota County Regional Chamber, is housed in this district, and of course, Commissioner Tom Egan, who retired from District 3 before the last election, has served this community for a very long time. And thanks to Tom. So I represent Lilydale, Mendota Heights, and several precincts in Eagan. And a lot of the county work that we do is done through committees and regional or statewide committees very often. And these are just a handful of the committees that I get to serve on. So I'm doing a lot of learning right now and getting to work on things that I'm very passionate about, like the Metropolitan Library Service Agency Board, working on library issues, as well as important parks and development issues. We've got the Dakota County CDA and the Association of Minnesota Counties, which is a statewide office. And so that's just a little snippet of some of the places that I work, but I get to bring some of my experience from the Capitol on health and human services to that. Mary, next slide.
Well, thank you, Lori, and right back at you, Lori. Lori Halverson is just a tremendous person to be able to work with, and her experience has really put her in a position to be a great collaborator, and I thank you so much, Lori. So I was for 22 years the mayor of Apple Valley. I represent District 7, which is Apple Valley and Rosemount precincts 3 and 5. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper into my Apple Valley mayor position right now, because it was 22 years and I can't just leave that undone. We were the first city, and Eagan joined us as a collaborator to have the BRT system in Minnesota. We did over $1.5 million worth of business development in Apple Valley. We attracted young families, and our population rose to 55,000. Like Eagan, we have seen our recognition of Apple Valley on Money Magazine several times. We achieved a AAA bond rating, and we maintained it, which you all know is very important. We were the first green municipal center in Minnesota, and conservation is critical to saving our taxpayers' money. And soon we will have the longest treetop trail in Minnesota at the Minnesota Zoo, and we all share that. We've achieved complete road reconstruction without assessments, which is unique in our area. And we created a blueprint for economic sustainable future. And I think the committees that you'll be most interested in are the regional rail, which I am the vice chair of, and that's transit that we deal with and the regional rail, as well as the Dakota Scott Workforce Development Board. Lori, I think it's back to you. Next slide. Oh, maybe me. Maybe me. Okay.
I think it's both of us. So we just wanted to give you guys a little highlight of why we made the change. I think one of the most common questions I've received through the campaign and as a new commissioner is why change from state representative to county commissioner. And the first thing I'll tell you is some people look at levels of government kind of like a corporation where you would rise through the ranks. And so going from a state position to a county, a local position, not everybody understands that move, but I'm here to tell you the county is where it's at. So everything that we pass at the state, when it comes to carrying out direct services to our communities, very often the county is the lead agency on that. And while the state gives money and gives general direction, it's the county that's responsible for carrying out successfully. And I don't have to tell you that Dakota County has really been a a premier county in carrying out a lot of these responses. Our pandemic response, as you have seen, has really been impressive, and I can't wait to, and we can go deeper in that in the Q&A, providing safety net services that we don't always see, from our visiting nursing programs to our birth through 3 programs, as well as providing direct care to people, and public safety as well. So I know you guys have heard from Sheriff Leslie and our county attorney as well. I have a background in public health, and the impact that we have on public health was a real motivator for me to get more involved in the county, as we see the impact that public health has on both our economy and our ability to grow as a county. And then finally, there's a lot of administrative work we do, including administering fair and clean elections. And I have dug deeply into our Dakota County elections and toured our elections department. I did so as a state representative and as a commissioner, and it is an impressive operation, and we're very fortunate to have the staff that we do. So Mary, next.
Well, Lori,
this is the same slide.
Yeah, you did a nice job of that overview too. And I asked myself, why would I leave being mayor? I loved the job that I did, but it's always great to love the job that you did going into the job that you're going to do. And that makes a great difference. It was a natural progression, like Lori had talked about. Counties matter. They touch every place of our lives. And when the pandemic hit, it pulled me back into county. Like Lori, I was a public health nurse in my life, and I was working on the issues in the city and said it made sense, logical sense. It was the time to return to county work, expanding my services to Apple Valley, Rosemont, and beyond. And I believe it was a great decision, and I'm so happy that I was able to join the county board with Lori Halverson. It's yours, Lori.
Thank you. We can go next slide. And back at you.
Oh, yes.
Here we've got our
Yes.
retirees. Take it away, Mary.
Okay, will do. So Jim Backstrom, Tom Egan, and Bonnie Brieshoff have actually been friends of mine for 30 years. And Jim Backstrom's 33-year career is what I want to honor this morning as the county attorney. I have to tell you that Jim was actively engaged in Apple Valley's Night to Unite for public safety, riding along with the Chief John Retzikel and myself to neighborhood wet watch parties across the city. And what you may not know about Jim is that he has a great voice and is a performer. In fact, he performs as Elvis. He did it at the Minnesota Zoo at the Celebration of Spring at an event that the Apple Valley Arts Foundation produced, and I'm one of the founders. Lori.
Thanks. And of course, I get to say thank you and hats off to our Commissioner Tom Egan, who served at the county for 16 years, and of course served the city of Egan for decades prior, and has earned a good rest in retirement and getting to spend time with his family. But I really do want to thank Tom for all of the important policies that he teed up, because Tom's leadership is one of the reasons why I'm stepping into a role with a county that is seen statewide and nationwide in some cases as a leader and an innovator. So thanks to Tom, and enjoy your retirement.
And thanks, Tom. You're a great mentor for both of us. And thanks to Jim, and thanks to Bonnie Brieshoff. She's the Director of Public Health. She has served Dakota County for 31 years, and I'm proud to say she's an Apple Valleyan. She has a great heart for the county. She's smart, she's strategic, and as a result, and Lori mentioned this earlier, that Dakota County has been a leader in effective public health strategies and delivery of service during this public health crisis. Bonnie likes the outdoors, and you may be seeing her hiking in our beautiful county parks with her husband. Thank you, Bonnie, for your service. Next slide. Lori, it's yours.
Well, we just wanted to give you a brief tee up. You guys know a lot about Dakota County, but it is worth saying that we are a large and fast growing county. We're actually on pace to overtake Ramsey County as the second largest county in the state in the next 10 years. And along with that is increasing diversity. We've got increasing racial diversity, religious diversity, and diversity of needs that we are responding to as county commissioners. Mary.
Thank you, Lori. And I think that diversity will hold well, that really serve us well into the future because the world is evolving and changing. So Dakota County's tax per capita is the lowest in Minnesota. It's the 6th year in a row that it has been the lowest. It has the lowest tax rate in the 7 Metro County area. And for the 2021 tax levy, it's 0%. We're dedicated, and Lori and I could both tell you that we believe in smart investing. We invest in what we value. Next slide, please. And so Dakota County libraries are a great investment. They're a community asset and they're evolving and they are relevant. I like to think of them as the county's living room, the living room which sparks important conversations with multicultural groups, with the League of Women Voters. And I'm proud to share with you that our premier library in 9 locations in the county are a finalist in the prestigious medal from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Thanks. And Lori, you're going to
Yeah, so libraries have really served an important role in our communities in general, but I wanted to highlight the fact that libraries really stepped up during the pandemic. We talk about counties as a hidden level of government. I think libraries tend to be a hidden resource as well. When we all, a year ago went into our dens to work and our students had to work from home, libraries stepped up in Dakota County by building up their ability to loan Chromebooks, loan Wi-Fi hotspots, because we know that Wi-Fi and internet connectedness is a very big deal as we're all working remotely. Libraries really stepped into that space and made very quick investments and got that technology out to the community. And libraries have been very active in supporting our small businesses. So as an employer, you've got resources there. There are employee trainings and work groups and networking groups there, along with maker spaces for folks to incubate their own small businesses, from everything from video and audio technology to other types of technology that can help people get a small business off the ground. So if you haven't stepped into a library for a while, come into one of our libraries and take a tour and see what we've got to offer, because everybody is welcome.
And I want to thank Lori Halverson because she represents the county on the library board. And I want to thank all library board members that might be present today. You've really made a difference. And congratulations on being a finalist for that great award.
And it looks like there's a box in the middle of the screen. I didn't know if that was just mine, but I saw it pop up in chat. So I'm just saying that for Heather's benefit. There we go. See, look at that. We, of course, are proud of our parks in Egan and in Dakota County. And I will say at the Capitol, one of the issues that we're bringing forward the most is getting connectedness in our trails and greenways. It's been a value of our communities for a very long time to make sure that we've got beautiful open space. There's a reason that trees represent the communities where both Mary and I live. But during COVID-19, just the increase of utilization of parks have really shined a light on how important they are for our communities, for connectedness. One of the things I've been proudest of being part of this community way back when I was on the park and Recreation Commission for the city of Eagan, was the value of connectedness. I remember we had a developer who came in who wanted to have a private park in the middle of a development, and the community rejected that soundly, saying, no, we want to be connected to our city trail system and to our county trail system. And so we are looking for bonding money. That's a top legislative priority to improve our connectedness amongst our trails, and not just the connectedness, but the safety and honoring the way people want to move around our communities on their bikes and on their feet, and make sure that people can do so safely.
So our beautiful park system has been a sanctuary during this pandemic, and Lori spoke about it. Our residents really need to be able to get out into nature. They've been cooped up in their homes, and that is a great place for them to be able to relieve the stress that they are under. And our parks and trails attendance has gone up over 200%. And one of our treasures in our parks is Spring Lake Park Reserve. And I want to recognize former Commissioner Tom Egan as an early adopter, a champion for introducing bison into this park. And why bison? Well, bison are keystone animals, and they have a healthy ecological impact on our prairie restoration, which is directly on the Mississippi River. I'm kind of geeky about these things because it's a passion of mine. And what I want to tell you is that bison have roamed the Dakota people's lands for 8,000 years. And I'm proud to say that Dakota County partnered and collaborated with Dakota peoples for including their cultural historic importance of their ancestors in this park reserve. People are asking for opportunities to connect on trails, as Lori talked about, and to connect with nature. And the county board has prioritized the aspiration of 200 miles of greenway that Commissioner Halverson will speak about in our next slide.
And yeah, you can put that on the next slide. There, that's just to give you a visualization of where we are and where we're going when we talk about connectedness. And you can see we're really focused right now on some of the northern connections, but there will be long time future planning when it comes to connectedness. So I just wanted you guys to have that visual. Next slide.
So along with the parks and everything else, you've got this.
Here is what you all have been waiting for, I think, COVID-19. Vaccinations are happening quickly. We have, as of yesterday, stood up a large vaccine clinic at Metcalf Middle School in Burnsville. And all accounts, I got a ton of feedback yesterday from people who were there and said that it was running incredibly smoothly. The demand continues to outstrip supply, but you can see from these numbers that we are doing everything we can to get every shot into every arm. So no drop is going to waste. And it looks like Fridays are really a good day to get on the county website and look for appointments if you guys are looking for appointments. So go to Dakota County, search COVID-19 vaccine, and you should be able to find a shot. And if you're having trouble, feel free to get in touch with your county commissioner or others to help you find a place to get a vaccine. This is the top priority right now for our public health. Mary.
It is the top priority, and Lori has talked about the Metcalf Middle School's, former Metcalf Middle School's vaccination clinic and how fantastic it is. But we know that vaccinations have been delivered since January, and we had the Northern Service Center, the Western Service Center, and they collaborated and joined into now the Metcalf Middle School. There's going to be a second vaccine site that's in the public library in Hastings, which will also be offering vaccinations the middle to the end of the month. And I want to tell you that the statewide Minnesota Vikings site, which is in Eagan, our sister city, and of course, Dakota County, it is fantastic. It's quiet. It's very professional. You feel a sense of confidence when you walk in that space. They are delivering 2,600 vaccines every day. And by the way, we will achieve our goals in vaccination, even though, and I was informed by the public health director that our vaccines are actually coming in. We had 100,000 coming in, and now they're up to 300,000 in the week. So that's pretty fantastic. All right, Lori, I think you're the next slide, please.
Well, and actually, Mary, you're going to kick this one off.
It's me, isn't it? Yes, I'm so happy that I have somebody so easy to work with here. The county has effectively delivered not only vaccinations, the testing that needs to be ongoing, but we're also financially supporting small businesses and nonprofits impacted by COVID-19 through the CARES Act grants. And we know businesses have struggled. And I want to applaud the county board and the staff for efficiently and effectively delivering $14.6 million in grants, and 1,226 businesses and nonprofits were the recipients of that. $850,000 went to the nonprofits like the Dakota Chamber Regional Chamber of Commerce. Lori, it's back at you.
Well, thanks. And now we're moving on to the next phase of the plan. The federal government, as you know, passed America's Rescue Plan, and there are significant dollars going again to local governments, both our counties and our cities. I have to say, as in the state legislature, when we were dividing up some CARES dollars back in December, I feel like I got to toss the football to myself. But one of the things that was part of that conversation at the state when we talked about giving money to our local governments to get into the hands of businesses was really that it's our local governments that are on the ground and know the communities and can get the dollars out the door as quickly as possible. And it was fun to get to then go to the county and help make that plan for how to distribute some of those dollars. But it is true that local government is as close as you're going to get to your policymakers, and we really do have close connections with the community. So with regard to how to distribute the America's Rescue Plan, it's going to be a little different. We have a longer time to spend the money, not months. We actually have years. We have through 2024. And so it's an opportunity for us to go from emergency funding, if you will, to longer term planning. How do we create stabilization and opportunities for growth for the future? And so we're teeing this one up a little bit differently, looking for input from you guys. And the way that the money can get spent is a little different. We have opportunities to spend on infrastructure such as broadband and sewer and water. We also have the opportunity to help our frontline workers who have been impacted at higher rates by COVID. And we can help frontline workers more economically. We can work on things like hospitality, tourism. That continues to be one of the hardest hit sectors. And so those are going to be some of the conversations we're having. I've met with all the mayors in my communities in the last week to talk about local needs. And I think that, and our county is going to do our first workshop on the America's Rescue Plan on Tuesday. And so this will be an ongoing project for us, and we will be looking for input from you all as well. So, next slide.
And thank you, Lori. I'm excited about having that conversation, and I'm excited about the input that the chamber members will be giving us today and into the future. I think that there's opportunities for us to reconnect on these issues. And so here's a snapshot of our priorities. And Lori spoke about broadband. Of course, that's something really important to all of us. And I want to thank Charter Communications for the work that they're doing and helping to make assure that students are able to be educated at their homes, either on the hybrid model or in their school. So thank you, Charter. Broadband access is critically important, and we know that during these challenging times, it's been important for our businesses, our schools, our healthcare, our nonprofits, our faith organizations, government. We depend on broadband. It touches every part of our lives, and our future needs broadband investment to forward the innovation that will come about in transportation, potentially autonomous vehicles, healthcare delivery, education, and much more. The next priority, and these are not ranked in order, but mental health support. Dakota County is on the front line of our mental health crisis that was even made worse by COVID-19. And if you know anyone, there's so much to talk about with mental health, and we could have a roundtable about this alone. If you know anyone who needs assistance, please reach out to our crisis hotline. It's been award-winning and will make a difference in the lives of you and your friends and your family. Lori.
Housing is another priority, and these are priorities that Mary and I kind of have identified as ones that we are really diving into. Housing is a priority for the county and has been for a very long time. I will say that our communities have really been leaders when it comes to affordable housing. I am a person who believes that if people work in our community, they should be able to live in our community. And as our communities grow older, and as people raise their families and move on to other types of housing, we need senior housing available because people do want to stay in our communities. We also need opportunities for young families to move in, right? Because these are the folks who grow to invest in our communities. And so having a good, strong mix of housing stock is important. We hear every day about the shortage of that. And the county is very devoted to creating strong housing. We also know that suburban poverty has been on the rise, and that homelessness is impacted our communities greatly. That's something I worked on a lot at the Capitol. And the leadership, and again, hats off to Tom Egan and those who came before us, but leadership at Dakota County really has focused on rapid rehousing and getting permanent housing, knowing that that is really what helps to stabilize folks who are in unstable situations. And so not just housing, but supportive housing. Some of our most recent projects like Cahill Place provide supportive housing for families. So families can get financial services and other types of supports, mental health supports, along with a roof over their head. And that helps create stability. And of course, with COVID-19, we have worked very hard with landlords to deal with the eviction moratorium and make sure that people it's hard to stay healthy when you're homeless. So making sure that people can stay in their homes. And then also high priority has been traffic and transit improvements. And I wanted to highlight Diffley Road. Construction is going to begin this spring on rebuilding Diffley Road in front of Northview Elementary between Lexington and Braddock Trail, where we, as a community suffered a tragic loss of a student going to school. And the new plan really does prioritize making sure that all people can travel safely to and from the schools, the athletic fields, and the retail that has grown up there, which was once a dirt county road, right? And a high traffic road. And so it's going to be, I think, a really great example of the way that we are prioritizing building roads for everybody moving forward. And that should wrap up by fall, and that project should be ready and for kids to walk and bike safely to school in the fall. So really thankful for all the work that got done before I showed up at the county, and happy that we could bring our first bonding dollars to the city of Egan for that.
And Lori, and I want to tell you, Commissioner Halverson, one of the first things that she did is she invited me up to that site on Diffley Road to take a look at that as a priority. And I truly appreciate this collaboration and look forward to the improvements that will happen for pedestrian safety and bicyclist safety there. County Road 42 is also a lifeline, a major artery all the way from Scott County, all the way through to Hastings. And in that, we are studying the intersections and creating safe pedestrian, bicycle, and motorist safety is truly our priority. So County Road 42 is in the process of going through the study, and we will be having some open houses, and I'm hoping that we're able to have actually some in-person open houses during the summer months here, where we can be outside and share those intersections and the impact that they will have on the neighborhoods. Because one of the things that I believe when we create a roadway system is we have to remember that people live there and that neighborhoods are there, and how do those roads facilitate a great environment, a safe environment. So Lori, you're next. This one is really exciting. Lori brought this to my attention, and I'm so excited that the county is doing this. It's yours, Lori.
Well, I'm going to let this speak for itself because we have taken enough time for our presentation, but there is a video embedded here. And here is a special program that exists in Dakota County that we wanted you guys to know about. You may have employees and other family members who might be interested in finding resources for financial empowerment. This is one of 2 financial empowerment programs like this in the nation, and it is run by 3 employees of Dakota County. So if we could just play that video, you guys can learn more about financial empowerment in the county, and then I think we can take questions.
Perfect.
What is financial empowerment? Dakota County is the only county in the state of Minnesota and one of 2 in the United States that provides free financial counseling to our residents. This work can include, but is not limited to, establish and work with a budget, learn how to build or repair your credit, learn how to address your debt, learn how to get mortgage ready to buy your dream home. You can request an appointment with one of our counselors to identify your goals and how we can help support you to reach them. Schedule your appointment today.
So you can find that link if you go to the Dakota County website and search economic empowerment or financial empowerment, and you will be linked to that. And staff are there to help. It is an incredibly unique program. I'm very proud of it. So with that, we can go to the next slide, and I think we're ready for questions. Thank you guys so much for inviting us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're ready for your questions.
All right.
And I think we have one in the chat, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, yep, we've got a couple. So thank you both so much for being here. I worked with you both in your previous positions, and so looking forward to continuing that in your new roles. And you bring a lot of energy and excitement to the county board, so this will be great. I think a first question I'll do is one that came from our Public Affairs Committee, and it's something that you touched on in your presentation about the American Rescue Plan. You said that Dakota County, I believe it's about 83 million that you received from that, and that there's a longer runway to expend those dollars than the CARES Act, which had a very short timeline and in which to spend. And so obviously you mentioned there can be a lot more thoughtful planning there. So, just curious, and you touched on it, but just, what you're thinking in terms of direct business support or economic recovery or other long-term investments. And I know we've had sidebar conversations about your interest in getting feedback from chamber members. So just giving you the opportunity to talk more about, what the county's thinking about there.
Yeah, well, I can dive in quickly and then I can pass it up to Mary. But one of the things that is very clear is that the COVID-19 really unearthed inequities that we need to address, racial inequities and economic inequities that we have had too many people kind of living on the knife's edge. And we had to sweep in with some pretty radical, I would say, policies, including things like the eviction moratorium that we're under, because most families can't go a month without income and still be able to pay their rent, and increasing, making sure that families had cash on hand. That was policy that Neil Kashkari at the Federal Reserve came out and advocated for immediately, that this was a very different kind of financial crisis. And we needed to make sure that people were continuing to put money into the economy, being able to buy basic needs. I think that this pandemic also showed us a lot about our supply chain and where there are missing links in our supply chain. And I think that it shows us some opportunities for how we can develop locally to build a stronger supply chain so that we don't have serious disruptions, especially with essential goods like we saw with pharmaceuticals, medications, and toilet paper. Frankly, it was a little bit crazy. And then finally, we did do a lot of granting as local governments, state governments, federal governments to employers to make sure that we were just keeping doors open, basically. And we know that people have been just hanging on and hoping for the best. And so now that we are hopefully coming toward the end of the pandemic, how can we best position our business community for the future growth? And workforce is going to be a big piece of that puzzle. We saw more women actually permanently leave the workforce during this pandemic than we've seen in recent years. And that in itself is going to be a crisis. It's something that we worked on prior to the pandemic, is making sure that you employers could find talent and find the workforce that you're going to need in the future, because we know we're going to have a smaller pool of workers to choose from. And so making sure that we can find ways to get people back into the workforce is going to be, those are kind of big picture things I'm thinking about, along with, our basic needs, like making sure we've, our infrastructure's in place. So Mary, your thoughts?
Well, and Laura, you have done a great job of looking at some of the very important ways in which our communities have a sense of well-being. And we need to really think about that big picture, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if we are able to make sure that our residents and our businesses have that sense of well-being, then our society as a whole will be much improved. And I'd like to think that our ARP, or American Rescue Plan, will really be transformative. And there are road issues, there are broadband issues, there are workforce issues, there are our social needs for our families and our education. All of these are critically important, and I believe we have an opportunity here, because we have a dollar amount that we've never seen in the county. That's just phenomenal. That the Congress, and thanks to Congressman Craig for being able to champion that for us. Mm-hmm. We have an opportunity, and we want to hear what you think are the most important areas that we should focus on. And we'll ask that now, and we'll hear from you and what you have to say. But let's have a roundtable. Let's have a discussion about this. And I know Maureen and Mark, you're all Heather, you're all geared up to help us to be able to do that.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, and we'll be happy to convene that and continue that conversation, definitely. One question that is in the chat and also came in from our Public Affairs Committee is, what role do you see for the county in meeting regional transit needs?
Mary, why don't you start?
Thank you, Lori. So transit has been something that I've been working on for years as being the mayor of Apple Valley, and helping to create the Red Line and the transit services in Apple Valley. We know our employers absolutely need transit, and our employees need to be able to have options in how they get to work. So I believe that it is part of transit needs to be robust in our plans, as we our comprehensive plan for the county. And we need to make sure that and Lori and I are working on this. We certainly wanted to be a part of MVTA and on their board, and we are still keeping track of that. And so I know that Gary Hansen who is a city council member, but he is also, yes, thank you so much, Gary, for your work. He's also a TAB member. He is also on the MVTA, and we want to continue to work with you. And when you know there's an issue that is coming up that we need to hear about, or we need to be present at the MVTA, Lori and I are both willing to be present. So we are champions of transit. We know it's logical. It makes sense. It's something important now, but our future is really going to call us even more so. I know the pandemic has changed things in terms of transit, but we know that our essential workforce absolutely is using transit, and we need to support that.
And I don't have anything to add other than thank you to the Dakota County Regional Chamber for the work you've done to get a better understanding of what the needs actually are. Transit is something that is newer to the suburbs in many ways in terms of a real policy understanding, and you guys have really advanced that. So thank you, and we'll continue to champion that.
Great.
Maureen did an excellent job of representing you at the county board meeting too. I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Great. Yes, thank you. Yep, and it definitely is a priority for us. So we look forward to continuing to work and collaborate on that issue. Another question in the chat: what role do you think the county should have in Dakota Communication Center operations?
I'm going to punt that one off to Mary because you've been working on that one.
So just a little history with regard to that. It came out of the High Performance Partnership as one of the ways that we could collaborate. There were 6 different PSAPs, public safety answering points, that collaborated and coordinated to be able to create the Dakota Communications Center. It is a collaboration. There is a large portion of this that the county operations are a part of. And our sheriff and our BJ Batting and the director of the DCC are all critically important to the delivery of service now and into our future, and especially with all of the challenges that we've faced with our civil unrest. So we need to be at the table. We need to be a part of it, and we need to financially assist appropriately, and we will be having more of those discussions.
Great, thank you.
Yep, and I concur.
All right. Another one that come through is the county trying to address racism in our cities and neighborhoods?
Thank you for that question. So one of the headings on one of those slides was equity in all policies. One of the issues that we have to name every time I think we get together is how we are changing racial justice in our communities. And the fact is that systemic racism does exist. The ways in which it is infiltrated our systems are so insidious that we don't even know it, the way it sits in our public policies, but it sits everywhere from our housing policy to election policy. And you can trace some of these policies back to Jim Crow. Disenfranchising felons was an actual, it was a Jim Crow policy that is on the books in Minnesota. And so we have to take a really hard look at all of our policies and make sure that they are equitable across the board, and not just equitable, but have a sense of fairness, because we know that because of redlining, we have families who have not experienced the ability to build generational wealth, which we have done, which white families were able to do through property. And so we have to create those opportunities for the building of generational wealth and creating that kind of economic equity. In addition, I would say that we are looking at facing tremendous healthcare disparities. County's very involved in health. We have to COVID-19 is a great example. It is impacting the Black community with death and disease at twice the rates it's impacting white communities. And yet our vaccination rates for our Black citizens are about half of that they are for white citizens. And I learned a stat in college that, or a little math trick in college, that if it's good for white people, it tends to be half as good for the Black population. And if it's bad for white people, it tends to be twice as bad. And that math works out far too often and far too good. So addressing disparities in rates of maternal, Black mother maternal health, the mortality of Black children is also something that's really important. But I mean, short term, we can address major disparities if we are very targeted in getting COVID vaccine relief into our communities of color, and finding pipelines for leadership for our communities of color, and finding places where communities of color get needs met here. One of the things that I heard most often from Black, Brown, Indigenous folks in Egan and surrounding communities, as I talk to citizens, is that folks that don't get community needs met here because they can't. And so how are we making sure that communities of color can get needs met here as well? And so it is a major focus and priority for me. And I ask that we all name racial equity kind of every time we gather. How does this impact racial equity? That was a very long answer, but I'm very passionate about it.
And it was a great answer, a great answer. Thank you for helping us always to remember to look at racial equity and every issue that we have through that lens. And I want to just say that the Dakota Scott Workforce Board actually did a book club on how to be anti-racist by Ibram Kendi. And I wanted to just follow up on at one additional thing, and Lori mentioned it earlier, but our mobile vaccination clinic will be focused on those individuals that have been less served in communities. And so that's really important. And then when I got excited about the financial empowerment, the wealth empowerment video, that also is geared towards making sure that everyone is included in building wealth, because that will ultimately strengthen our entire county and our state, our nation. So.
Well, thank you both so much. I think that's just like a really positive and uplifting way to, I think, end the comments, and gives us a lot of hope and future thinking, and really appreciate it, and really appreciate both of you taking the time to be here this morning. And I could say from experience, I'm proud to be a Dakota County resident during this time because, I'm a big user of the park and trail system. I think you've done a wonderful job in terms of the COVID response and the vaccination efforts. So thank you for your service there. And thank you both for being here today. And we really appreciate it.
Amanda, it was so much fun. Will you invite us back?
Definitely.
Because Lori and I will give you an update on what's happening. So
yeah,
but we also, if there's a way that we can be included in those roundtables that with your discussion on aspirations for the ARP, the American Rescue Plan, that would be really great. And Lori, thank you for being such a great partner. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you, Mary. It's really fun getting to work with you as well. And really want to thank again the Chamber for your thoughtfulness and your leadership, and you're willing to, I think, host important and sometimes tough conversations. And so that's the way that we are going to build a better community as we move forward to a brighter future, hopefully after COVID. So we are your partners. And thanks so much, Mary, for being part of this discussion this morning. It's been fun.
And I want to thank the DRC Chamber as well. And Maureen, I want to wish you well. I see you coming back strong and healthy. You're a warrior. You're amazing. You're such an advocate. so positive for champion the issues of the business community. And Amanda, it's been great working with you over the years on broadband. And Mark Loftus, thank you for the work that you did with us, with making sure that we have a great company called Uponor in the city of Apple Valley that's expanded 10 times since I was the mayor. And this has been really fun. Let's do it again.
We definitely will. Thank you. And I'll tee up our next public affairs breakfast. That will be on Friday, May 7th. And that is going to feature updates from our legislative leadership, kind of on the end of session, how things are going. We'll have someone from each caucus talking about how things are going. So we'll have that. And again, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Flint Hills Resources, Velocity Public Affairs, and Charter Communications, and of course our guests, Mary Heyman Rowland and Lori Halverson. So thanks everyone for joining us today, and have a great Friday.